To open Access from the Start menu, click the Start icon on the taskbar. If Access 2016 does not display, type an A in the Search Programs and Files. Access 2016 displays as the first link on the Start menu. Click the link. Click the blank Desktop Database icon. At the blank Desktop Database dialog box, replace the default name with a name for your new database, Textbooks and Publishing Companies. Click the Browse for a location to put your database icon and navigate to the location of your student data files. We already have the file name. Click OK. Click Create to open a new database with the name Textbooks and Publishing Companies. You have opened your database in Datasheet view. On the left, you have a navigation pane with one default table called Table 1. In Datasheet view, you will define the first field or column of your database. Click on the first field name ID. Right-click and rename the field. Our first field name is going to be Book ID with no space. Click the white triangle to the left of Book ID. Select Book ID and make sure that the Fields tab in the Table Tools menu is selected. The default data type, which means the type of data that you expect to store in that field, is auto number. Click the down arrow and select Short Text. Short text is reserved for text, not numbers. Next, we will set the field size. The field size is the longest number of characters you expect to store in that field. Change the 255 to 7. Then click the Name and Captions icon. Notice that the field name displays. Click Caption. What you type in the caption is what you would like to display in place of Book ID in any queries, forms, or reports. So we are going to type Book Space ID. Click in the description text box. In the description text box, which is optional, you will type information for someone who might be working on the structure of your database or your table. In this one, you are going to type ID of book and click OK. You have just defined the first field or column in your table. Now we will add a second field to our Table 1 structure. Click the Click to Add icon and select the data type. Since book title will be only characters, we will select the short text data type. And we are going to type the name of our new field, which is Book Title. Click the white arrow to the left of the row and then select Book Title. Now we are going to change the field size. Change the 255 to 100. Then click the Name and Caption icon And the caption is going to be book space title, and the description will be title of book. Click OK. We are going to define the remainder of our fields in Design View. With the Fields tab on the Table Tools menu selected, click the View icon in the Views group and select Design View. We need to name our table. This table will be named Textbooks. And click OK. Notice that we have a different setup to design our fields in our table. The two fields that we've already defined are here. Now we're going to click below Book Title. We are going to define the next field in our textbooks table. The next field is course number. Course number. Tab. And here we tell whether this is what data type we want to use for this. We are going to use a short text, so this is correct, tab, and we're going to type number of course. Then we're going down to field size in the field properties section and change the 255 to 8. And then under caption, we are going to type course space number. Go back to the top section and click under course number, and we'll define our next field, which is total pages. Tab. Total pages may be calculated, so we are going to click the down arrow under data type and choose number. Click under description so we can tab to description. The description is total number of pages. We will look down at field size and notice when you use a number data type, the field size is already filled in. So we're going down to caption and we're going to type total space pages. And then click at the top under total pages to define our next field. Our next field is called new book price. Tab. And since this is dollars and cents, we are going to click the down arrow and choose currency. Tab to description, and we are going to type price of new book. Notice that with currency, there is no field size. We go to caption, and we are going to type new book price. Go back to the top, and we are going to go below new book price and add another field called used book price. Tab. And we also want this to be currency. There is a shortcut. If you type a C on the keyboard, it fills in currency. Tab. And we can type price of used book. Go down to caption and type used book price. Then we're going back to the top to find the next field, which is author name. This will be a short text, so we can tab and type name of author. We will change the field size to 100, and in the caption we are going to type author space name. And now we will define our last field, which is publisher ID. This will be a short text. And under description, we can type ID of publisher. We need to change the field size, and we're going to change that to 5. And in the caption, we are going to type publisher space ID. We have now defined all of the fields in our textbooks table. We are now going to close the textbook table and save it. Move your cursor to the Textbooks tab right-click. Now we could choose Save, but Access has a feature that when you choose Close, if it has not been saved, it will ask you, do you want to save the changes to the design of the table textbooks? Select Yes. The table closes and textbooks displays under the table as table object. Double-click on textbooks. Notice that we open, and we now see the design of our table. Each thing that we type down in Design View now displays across as column headings. We can double-click on each one of these to expand them, but as we add information, we may need to expand or make them narrower depending on the information that we put in. We'll go across. We did them all for now. Let's right-click, Close. Because we made some changes to the layout, we are asked if we want to save, and select Yes. We are now going to add records to the textbook table. Double-click on the textbooks table. We are going to click in Book ID, and our first one will be BK001. Then Tab. Under Title of Book, we are going to type Microsoft Office 2016 Introductory. Tab and type CIS100. Under Total Pages, we will type 1432. Under New Book Price, we're going to type 125. Now we do not need to type the .00 because this is currency. It will display with a dollar sign, so Tab. Under Use Book Price, we are going to type 85.50. Tab. Under Author Name, we're going to type VERMAAT, and under Publisher ID, we're going to type CEN. Notice the little pencil that displays to the left of this row or record. This means that we are in edit mode. If we do not press the Tab key, this record will not be saved. So we're going to press the Tab key, and now we are on to our next record, and we're going to type BK002. Tab. Now you may find that we don't have a lot of space here, so we might want to put our cursor between these two lines until we see the four-pointed arrow. Double click to open it up so we can see all of the title. Now we're going to type Computer Science Illuminated. Tab. Type CIS101. 854. The price is $95.50. $75, so we don't need the 00, and we are going to type Dale, Nell, and Lewis, John. Tab, and we're going to type BJL. Tab, and again, something we can do is to click this little icon called the shutter icon or shutter bar. If you click it, it closes your navigation pane so that you have a little bit more room to type. So let's go ahead and click on click on the next one down for Book ID, and we're going to type BK003. Blended HTML, XHTML, and CSS Introductory. Tab. CIS131. 796. This is 115.50. 79.75. It is Henry Bojack and Sharon Scholar. And it is CEN and Tab. Now we want BK004, Java, how to program early objects, CIS214, 768, 132, 89.50, and Deedle and Deedle. And this is PHL. And then we have BK005. And we're just adding enough records in, so when we do our next chapter, we will have some records that we can query. So this one is called Networking Essentials, CIS240, 528, 102.50, 89.25, and this one is Beasley and NIKAEW, and this one is PHL. And now we have BK006. This is our last record, PHP programming with MySQL. And I noticed that I got an extra letter here. I'm going to click back and just backspace and tab again. We have CIS333, 712, 105.75, 95.50, and Goslin, Kokoska, and I need to come back into this one because I didn't finish, Kokoska, comma, and Easterbrooks, and then CEN and tab. Now we can go back and double click between each one to make sure that we've opened them enough or made them narrow. We're doing what's called the best fit or auto fit. Now that we have them all done, we are simply going to right click, close. Do you want to save? Yes. And then we can click the shutter bar to open the navigation menu. When we double click on textbooks, notice that all of our records are there. So we can right click, close again. Open the textbooks table in Datasheet view by double-clicking on textbooks. Notice that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 records. We can also look at our navigation bar to notice that we have 1 of 6. We're on 1 of 6. Now if we click the right arrow, it says next record. We would be on 2 of 6. 3 of 6. Notice that the right arrow with the pipe is last record. Click that and we're on the last record. Notice the one that looks like a right arrow with a sun. This would take us to the new blank record so that we could add a new record. Right now this doesn't seem very important because we can see the blank row for our next record. But if we already had 50 records, it might be easier to use this to get to the next blank record. Before we print our table, we may want to take a look at it in Print Preview. Select File on the ribbon to go to the Backstage view. Click Print and select Print Preview. Notice that we are on page 1. We're going to click the right arrow to see if there's another page, page 2, and now the right is grayed out, which means that there are only 2 pages. Now, we may want to see if we could fit this on one page. To do that, we can go and change it to landscape. And it still shows that we're moving to 2 pages. Let's click the back arrow, the left arrow, to go to the previous page. We have page 1 and page 2. The other thing that we could try is to go to page setup and look at the margins. But we're only going to gain about a ½ inch if we change these margins. So in this case, it probably won't fit on 1 page. So click OK. And let's close Print Preview. We could now print if we wanted. Let's right-click on Textbooks and choose Close. And it has saved our change, and we are now in Landscape. We need an additional table in this database called Publishers. Instead of creating it the way we did before, by defining our own field names and entering the information, we can also import an Excel spreadsheet as a new table. To do that, we are going to select External Data. We know that we want an Excel spreadsheet, so we're going to click under Import. Remember, import means to bring in and export means to send out. So we are going to click Excel. Under Select the source and destination of the data, we are going to browse to the location of the Excel spreadsheet. So Browse. We are going to go to your data files. And select Access, then the 1 to 3 data files, Module 1, and there's a file called publishers.xlsx. Select and click Open. Now we have several options under Specify how and where you want to store the data. We want to import the source data into a new table. We could also append it to an existing table, or link the data to the data source by creating a link table. We want the first option. Click OK. And if it tells you that there is a potential security concern, it's okay to click Open. It is because Access files or Excel files sometimes have viruses. Notice that this is the table that was stored in Excel. It has a heading, publisher, publisher name, and web address. Notice that it does have headings. So we need to select first row contains column headings. This is very important. Remember that if your column headings are already in Excel, you need to select this option. Click Next. This one, you can specify information about each of the fields. We really don't need to do anything more with this. The only thing we could do is change the data type, and we'll fix some of those later. So let's select Next. Again, this one is very important. It added a new first field called ID. And this would be our primary key. We do not want this, so we need to choose my own primary key, and it automatically changes to Publisher ID, which is what we want, so we select Next. That's all the information the wizard needs to import your data. We just need to tell it what we want to name the new table. Let's call it Publishers, and then click Finish. We do not need to save our import steps. You can click Close. You will notice that you have a new table under the Tables object called Publishers. Double-click, and this opens with all of the information that was stored in our Excel spreadsheet. Let's use the best fit to widen or make narrower each of the columns, and then right-click, close. Yes, we do want to save. Now we're going to make some changes to the design of the Publishers table. We can double-click Publishers and choose View Design View, or simply right-click, Design View. Notice that we have Publisher ID, which is our primary key. It has a short text data type. We need to make it have, and we can type over here, ID of Publisher, but we also may want to say that this is the primary key. And under field size, we need to be sure that we give it the same field size as the Publisher ID in textbooks, because this is the field that links the two tables. So we are going to type 7. And under caption, we are going to type Publisher ID with a space. And then we will select Publisher name. It's short text, which is correct. And under description, we can type name of publisher. The field size, we could probably put something like 50 to be sure that we have enough space. And under caption, we will type publisher, space name. And under web address, that is a short text. We could, and just to show you, we could choose hyperlink, but I am simply going to have you choose short text. And we are going to type web address. And under field size, let's type 50. And under caption, we will type web space address. We have made all of the changes we need, so we will right-click on the Publishers Table tab and choose Close. Do you want to save? Yes. It always will ask you, if you change the size of a data field, it will ask you to tell you that there may be some data lost, and that simply means that if you had a publisher name that was more than the 50 that we chose, it would cut that off. So you always, pretty much for what we'll be doing, will want to choose yes. We are now going to create a query on the textbooks table. A query is a way of filtering our table so we only get the information that we want to display. So we are going to click the textbooks table, because that's what we're going to build our query on, and on the ribbon, click the Create tab. We are going to choose Query Wizard. We are going to create a simple query wizard and click OK. Again, choose Open. Now, notice that under Tables and Queries, Textbooks is already selected. That is because we chose textbooks before we chose to create the query. If we had not done that, you may need to click the down arrow and select the table you want to use. We are going to move to the selected fields any fields that we want to display in our query. Now, we move one field at a time over by clicking the right arrow. If we wanted all the fields, we could choose the double arrows. But in this case, let's just click them all to bring them over. And click Next. Here you have a choice of detail or summary. Usually we choose detail. You can give your query a name. For now, let's call it Textbooks Query. Select Finish. Notice that we have a new object called Queries, and we have a Textbooks query. Now we're going to take a look at the real power of queries. we're going to add a criterion to the query. We only want to see the records where the publisher ID is CEN. So we are going to right-click on the Textbook Query tab and choose Design View. We are at what is called the Design Grid. Place your cursor on the blue horizontal line between the top and bottom sections. Click and drag up to give yourself a little more room. We can also pull the bottom section down just a little bit to see all of the fields. We may have to adjust a little bit. We already have all the fields in our query. We are going to scroll over so that we can see Publisher ID. Notice the row headings: Field, Table, Sort, Show, Criteria, or. We are going to enter something under Criteria. We want the Publisher ID to have a criterion of CEN. So we're going to type CEN in the criteria row of Publisher ID. We are then going to move to the Run icon in the Results group, click, and it will open the textbook's query. And as we go across, notice that only those with a Publisher ID of CEN display. Now we're going to right-click and close. And yes, we will save the textbook's query. So far, we have created two objects, a tables object and a queries object. We are now going to create a forms object. Select the table on which you want to base your form. In this case, textbooks. Do not double-click. We don't want to open it. Just select it. Then we are going to click Form in the Forms group. Make sure that we've selected Create and Form in the Forms group. We have now created a textbook form. Notice that we are seeing one record of the table in this form. Notice we are on record 1 of 6. If we click the right arrow, we're on 2 of 6, 3 of 6. If we click the one that says New Blank Record, it will take us to a blank record for the textbooks. We could add a new record to our table by typing it in the form. So now we know that we can enter records in Datasheet view, or we can enter them in a form. Right-click on the Textbooks tab and choose Close. Do you want to save the changes? Yes. And now we can name the form. I'm just going to name it Textbooks Form and click OK. We now have a new object called Forms, and we have one form, the textbook form. So far, we have created 3 objects: tables, queries, and forms. We are now going to create the 4th object, a report. Select the table on which you want to base the report. Click the Create tab on the ribbon and select Report in the Reports group. Now we want to modify our table so it displays the way we want. The first thing that we want to do is change the title. First, click View and make sure that you are in Layout View. Double-click on the title. Click after the S in Textbooks and let's add the word Inventory. Click anywhere in the report. Now we are going to remove the columns that we do not want to show in our report. This only removes the columns from the report, not from the table. So we do not want course number to display, so we click in the column header for course number, click the Arrange tab in the Report Layout tools. Click Select Column under Rows and Columns. When all of the records are highlighted, click Delete on the keyboard. Let's get rid of author name, so we click on Author Name, select Column, Delete. And then we will click on Publisher ID, select Column, and Delete. What we have left in our report is Book ID, Title of Book, Total Pages, New Book Price, and Used Book Price. Now we are going to adjust a column heading to show you how it works. Let's say that we wanted book on one line and ID on the second line. We would click on Book ID, place your cursor at the right of the orange rectangle, click and drag to the left until you have gone past the beginning of the first word. Now we're going to click. Notice that the 3 drop down, so that means we need to come out just a little bit more. They all display. Now click on the bottom of the column heading and drag down. We now have Book ID displaying on 2 lines. Now we're going to take a look at column totals. Notice that by default, the used book price has a column total. Adding all of these together really doesn't make a lot of sense. It would make more sense if we averaged the used book price. So let's go to the Design tab in the Report Layout tools. Click the Totals down arrow in the Grouping and Totals group and select Average. Let's scroll down and notice that we now have an average. Let's click on that average and click the bottom line and drag it down just a little bit so you can see all of it. Now I would think that we'd also want to average the new book price. So let's click on the column heading for new book price, click the down arrow and average. We now have an average of the new book price. As we look at our report, we can see the dotted vertical line means that this is where page 1 ends and page 2 begins. We notice that the 1 of 1 is on the second page. So let's scroll to the right until we can see the right border. Place your cursor on the right border until you see a double pointed arrow. Click and drag until it is inside the dotted line. We will now see page 1 of 1 on the 1 page. Let's go to View and choose Report View. We can now see what our report will look like. Right-click on Textbooks, choose Close, Yes to save, and let's call this Textbooks Report, and click OK. Let's open the Textbooks Report. You may have noticed earlier that Microsoft was misspelled when I typed the title in the Textbooks table. Right-click and close the Textbooks Report and open the Textbooks table. Let's change the spelling of Microsoft in the textbook table. and click below to get rid of the editing pencil. Right-click and close. Now let's reopen the textbooks report. Notice that the Microsoft Office 2016 Introductory is spelled correctly. So you notice that when you make a change in a table, it changes in all of the objects that are based on that table. Let's close the textbook report. To compact and repair the database, select File, and under Info, select Compact and Repair. Select Enable Content. To make a backup copy of the database, select File, Save As, and select Backup Database, and click Save As. It is automatically going to save the database with the current date. Click Save. And let's close our database. And when we go to look at our data files, we'll go to Open Windows Explorer and go to your data files and click on Access, Access Module 1, and notice that we have two textbooks and publishers, one with today's date. Close.